Okay, we are live across two time zones, Pacific PST and then Indian Standard Time. So, welcome, Manbir. I know it's kind of early for you. It's about 7 a.m. your time. Welcome to the Teflon Tales.
Yeah. Hi, Ashwin. Thank you so much for having me. Love to
Uh,
be here.
yeah, so great to have you. Again, by way of introduction, so Manbir and I met thanks to the amazing recognized experts group. Yeah, I think you are the third REXer to be on the show. It was
Oh,
Robbie, Christy, and then you.
Christian.
And
Yeah.
recognized experts group is something the amazing Dory Clark started, and yeah, so that's the reason how Manbir and I met. So I'm going to jump into it, and we converse, you can talk a little bit more about your background. But the thing that caught my eye, which is again reflective of Teflon Tales, is you have an extremely strong computer technology background, right? You did your
Yeah.
bachelor's, you did your master's, and then if somebody looks at Manbir today, you are an executive coach, you're a certified PCC, professionally certified coach,
It's
conversational
MCC now.
intelligence. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So where you started, AK, where your education was, and where you are today are very, very different. So talk a little bit about that
Hmm.
journey from where you started to where you are right now, and
Hmm.
along the way we have the conversation.
So yeah, I did my graduation in computer applications and I started in banking.
Oh wow,
So
okay.
we started there only, so very early. And I was only 19 then. So you understand, in India, we typically do graduation in 20, 21 years. And I was the youngest, undergrad in all my fraternity. And I started with banking and then moved to the fintech world. So,
Hmm.
and during those times, I did my post graduation, which is graduation in MCA. So I did that and in 2011, entrepreneurship bug kind of bit
Hmm.
me and kind of started bidding I think in 2009 or so, but I didn't know what I want to do. And I come from a typical business, that I was leading business analysis for India unit for Pfizer. And so it was in a lot of business analysis, not the HR angle, nothing related to HR or development.
Hmm.
But in the last role, I got an opportunity to look at the human angle from the management standpoint, from
Hmm.
competency standpoint. And that is where I thought, human is something I want to work on more. And I didn't know what to do. And not first pivot. I made 3, 4 pivots in my life, from career standpoint. But that was a major shift from a stable corporate, good going. I was doing really good in the particular job, transitioning to an unknown territory. And believe me, when I'm saying unknown, it is an understatement. It was actually, I don't know what is the right word to use.
So let me ask you that, because this is something that everybody is faced with, whether they like to acknowledge it or not, which is
Yeah,
typically you get good at something, right? And
yeah,
yet there is this bug that tells you, hey, and you see somebody else, or you had this thing when you were a child, and so that, but the one of the biggest chasms that one has to get over is the fact that you're good at something, and like you
hmm,
said, you're going to this unknown where you, to be honest, everybody sucks, right? Because you're starting from ground zero, and
yeah,
that internal dissonance, if you will, of being good at something and then starting something where you're essentially at ground zero is a hard step, right? So what was your,
yeah.
I mean, was it a peer group, was it your parents, was it family, was it REXers? I mean, what is it that allowed you to make that first move?
So it was none of these, actually
Okay.
speaking, not parents. My parents were like, wow. I mean, no, none of my family members is in business or entrepreneurship. They're like, what? We can't, they were like that. So my husband said, do whatever you want to do. He was neutral. So, so I guess, something sparked at that point of time that, I want to do something for human to human connections.
Hmm.
So, and other thing, I would say now I'm able to better articulate in this way. But if I go back, it was like, enough of corporate and I saw people working hard but still not happy.
Hmm.
Something
Hmm.
is missing
Yeah.
always. And people want to engage, get best of their teams. They have best intentions,
Yeah.
but still something is missing. When we come across as peers or bosses or subordinates or whatever, something is missing. So I found that area very interesting. What is missing here? And that's where, I think my interest and curiosity is one value I live by. So I think my curiosity there kind of led me to explore. And on the practical side, I guess, um, finances were taken care, family was taken care, there was somebody who was bringing bread on the
Yeah.
table. So I
Yeah.
thought, okay, let me explore this more.
Wow. Yeah. Again, that is emblematic of Teflon, right? Which is you're hot at something and you're starting something new, and you want to get really good at it. Again, that's a curiosity piece, right? So one of the things is and the ability, and you've talked about this, right? Which is and this is a typical entrepreneur child, and you've been doing this for almost a decade right now, so you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about over here, which is you want to experiment more. So you have a corporate life, right? And yes, bad bosses, office politics, all that, but it's still a closed box.
Yeah.
Whereas entrepreneurial is complete unknown, right? Which means
Oh my God. Yeah.
the desire to do more and more and be able to kind of, just like Teflon, be turning on stuff. But the thing is, you have to be gentle with yourself. You have to
Hmm.
cool down. You have to detach yourself. And you'd mentioned this phrase, unsaid rush everywhere. So how did you navigate through that without burning both ends of the candle?
So I didn't know this skill, frankly speaking, when I started. So this is a learned skill. And I'm a high achiever. So
Yeah.
everybody has a different persona. So
Yes.
I have a big high achiever in me. So I was like, I'll conquer the world, kind of a kind of a feeling. So I yes worked I think 14, 15 hours in a day
Wow.
with a kid, with family. So I thought, I want to show to the world and want to be successful entrepreneurial women. And being a woman, an entrepreneur in India was difficult. Now things have changed in last decade, but was difficult. So burning myself, I did that. I did burn myself multiple times. I
Wow.
won't say, I knew it. I did that. And there were times when when I didn't get any money from my assignments, or and that was another burning.
Mhm.
So because you're not making that kind of money, and it hits your self-esteem, it hits your identity. And
Completely
remember,
agree.
I started working when I was 19.
Yeah.
So I was that independent financially. So it really hit me. And I think one big support during this time was my family. They, of course, they didn't know what I'm going to do, but they were there with me. And this cooling down is a learned skill.
Mm.
So what happens, Ashwin, I guess, when we burn ourselves, there is a desire which is coming from negative feelings, competition, some kind of guilt, some kind of fear. Others will go and I'll remain here. I
Yeah.
have to show to the world. And for me, it was coming from that perspective. I have to show to the world. That's not a very positive feeling.
Yeah.
That's kind of a some kind of insecurity, negative feeling. So not so positive, if not negative. So that burns you. In corporate life also, when there are actions which are coming from your so-called sabotaging behaviors, coming from those feelings, then it hurts you. I think one of my mentors really helped me
Mm.
balance this. And I really want to acknowledge the mentors and coaches I got during my this entrepreneurial journey. They really helped me that life is not going to be perfect every day,
Yeah.
especially being an entrepreneur. So I think that is something, Ashwin, that changed me. But it was not like this moment, tuck, and I was the changed person. No, it was hit and trial. Now transferring that, how do I do that? I check on my feelings.
Mm.
Where am I? Where is it coming from? And it's not that it always comes from positive feelings. Now also it comes from, I had written a book, and then COVID happened. All plans just go off, and suddenly those behaviors again come in. So I think it relates a lot to your feelings. If we are connected to that, it's easier to cool off and say, life is not gonna perfect. It's me who needs to do best, and best is not somebody else's definition. My best with a teenager, with a family, could be different than your best at any different
Yeah.
age, right? So that's how I will put it. Did I answer your question?
No, no. So again, I think this is brilliant because part of the whole idea behind doing the Teflon Tales is others can learn from what Manbir has experience, right? So I think what you're talking about over here, which is the hits and misses, and everybody gets to make their own mistakes. There's no question
Yeah,
about that. But
yeah,
if there's something you can learn from somebody else who's
yeah.
spent an inordinate amount of time, hey, maybe you'll spend a few days, a few years less than that. I think that's success. The one thing that showed up, right? And again, I do the social profile for my guests, and you were pictured in the year in review yourstory.com, and it was, the whole article was titled "Recovering from Failure," and you were actually quoted, right? If you stop learning, I think that whole concept of like what happens when you stop learning, where did
Hmm.
that come from? I mean, in terms of and it's one of those things, again, when you're trying to do too much, where do you get the time to actually take pause and learn, right? And one
Yeah.
of my friends used to say, it's like, hey, you have to pause, and then after the pause, then the learning happens, right? But if you don't pause, you keep going, then you have no time
Hmm.
to, like, how do you deal with that?
Hmm. And I seriously believe in that. Seriously means actually seriously. I think that has been one of the value systems I have been. I had got it from my father, but it was lost on the way with
Mm.
the rush, with the rat race that I have to win. See, how do it again? It was. I thought I have been successful in corporate. I will be super successful as an entrepreneur because everything is in my control.
Yeah,
But we forget that in a corporate, when we are successful, there are 100 other things which makes you successful.
correct.
You're not the only person. As an entrepreneur, those 100 number maybe decrease to 110 depending upon your situation. A lot depends on you. So there is a lot to learn. So I guess as an entrepreneur, I learned this. Learn how learning is important. It's not about learning is not a destination that okay, I have learned and I have been there. Now a long answer to your question, but coming back to what you said, I guess, as you said, having a pause. But pause doesn't have to be only a big pause, taking 3 days break, 1 hour, 1 hour a break kind of a thing. No, what does pause mean? I think let's step
Mhm.
back and reflect. So when we are, I mean, little bit of science here, Ashwin.
Mhm.
So when we are working during the day, when you drive to office, you're automatically going to office. You're not thinking about the route. So your
Correct.
neuro connections are fired up, right? Those neuro connections are fired up. You're talking to your spouse, talking to your friend, and maybe thinking something, and you reach office. And that happens almost all the day. You spoke to a subordinate. The moment that person reach our cabin, our neuro connections spark up, and we know that what kind of conversation it is going to be. When I'm saying pause, pause is from that particular auto mode. Take a
Mm.
break. It could be 1 minute break, 2 minute break,
Yeah.
multiple breaks during the day is a pause. Not taking 1 hour meditation in the morning and then it's taking a break. No, that happens you to learn. Learning is not only external learning is kind of giving yourself break, and believe me, that is a core of learning, where you are able to assimilate the information, reflect on that, small reflection time. So that is learning. That is the learning which I always propagate. That's a Of course, you need to read books and blah blah blah, but there is like abundance of knowledge, right? You can't learn everything, and that's another balance we need to create. That pressure that I need to learn a lot is a
Yeah.
huge pressure.
And it's so one of the other things, and I push my guests about this, especially entrepreneurs on the show, right? Which is, there are certain things you have to let go. And
Absolutely.
you mentioned the corporate side, but even like you have 5 or 6 experiments going on, right? And in order for you to actually push
Yeah,
yourself, and like you said, I mean, as an entrepreneur,
yeah,
your
yeah,
sales, your marketing, your R&D, your QA, your
yeah,
everything, right? So,
yeah.
and it's hard if, because unlike a corporate job where quote unquote it's a job, these are all your passions, right? So how do you
Absolutely.
cool something down in order to actually put, I mean, efficient resources and passion behind fewer things?
Hmm. That's a big one. That's a big one. So, I mean, and again, I said, everybody is different. For somebody who is a hyperachiever like me, and I'm not saying high achiever, I'm saying hyperachiever. So there's so it's difficult. It's difficult to let go, because people like me think that I can make it happen. I can definitely make it happen. So I guess to cool it off, how I do it is prioritize thing. And when I'm saying prioritize, it's not only from external priority, it's also from internal priority. It's balancing. It's balancing. For example, I'm just going in my life. So when my son was into teenaging and he was preparing for his engineering test and all that, I wanted to support him. I kind of slowed down on a business. And that time also, I was, at one of the junctions where I was really, really doing good and wanted to explore into big projects and all that. And my first book just came in at that point of time. So I really had to put, and when we talk about book as a coach or something, it's an extra activity. It's
Yeah.
not something which is bringing revenue,
Correct.
right? But it is taking time. So I'm just giving an example that, then I step back and say, what is more important here?
Mhm.
What are you going to do here? How is it going to impact my life? How is it going to impact my life of my near and dear ones? I guess those are the questions which really helps me many, many times. Not, I mean, that is only one example because that was a major milestone in my life as a mother, as a working mother. So I think cooling off starts from a little bit of reflection. It cannot, let go cannot be a switch on and switch off.
Right.
I think there cannot be a single formula for let go because everybody is different. So I think that's very important. Stepping back, reflecting that what is more important here, and very important is enjoying that journey also, because letting go is a big learning. It's a big learning. So take that as a learning also. You don't need to go for an extra class for that learning. It happens inside.
So, two more questions, right? One is, you were aware your neurons were fired up for you to actually see that inside your corporate role, um, that feeling of uh, emptiness, or the feeling of desire, or even success, which is fleeting because somebody else got a promotion and therefore your success of yesterday is a failure of today. And you were able to translate that into action, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, what advice do you have for people who may not have those, that sixth sense, if you will, of, okay, what actually gives them joy, what actually gives them. So how does, I mean, what advice do you have for somebody in a corporate role, to what should they be looking for to see, okay, these are indicators for me to be able to say, okay, this is really what motivates me, so therefore what can I do, right? Sometimes again, blinders on, it's hard to see that. So any suggestions on how they can remove those blinders?
Yeah, so and many times those blinders you cannot remove for yourself.
Mm.
I would say, have a mentor along, have a coach or a mentor. I'm not just saying because I work into that domain, but I'm saying because anybody else who kind of doesn't have that stake in the game, who is not going to judge you,
Yeah.
can help you in this particular area. And that happened with me also when I came to entrepreneurship. I didn't know that I want to be a coach. Coaching is the word I didn't know at that point of time. I just said, I want something to do with, engaging people, leadership. I don't know what, because, so a lot of people came in my life at that point of time, in different roles as a mentor and coaches. They kind of helped me to, you know, um, have that convergence and divergence kind of a thing. So they really helped me to focus, defocus wherever it was. So I would say, if there is a confusion, if there is a slight feel that yeah, you're not happy here, and you want to explore something else, and whether this is the not many people ask me whether this is the right time or not right time. I guess there's no right and wrong answer for that, right?
Yeah.
So things can go anywhere. So it's good to have some kind of accountability partner, which could be a mentor or a coach, who can help you, who can decipher this for you. And I just also want to tell the audience that that person will not do this for you. This person will only facilitate that journey with you. So I guess that I would say that was really a great help.
So, final question, and this is a lead up to what you just said, right? And again, having coming from the same part of the universe, India, and being and growing through, like you said, I mean, needing to graduate by 21, and there's a certain set path, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And at least when I was growing up over there, if I had chosen at the age of 24, 25, or even like mid 30s or so, saying, hey, I need a coach, I can guarantee you, my community will look at me and say, okay, like, what are you? Are you mental or something? You need a coach. So, uh, but now looking
Mm.
back, and you and I are part of REXers, and the community is all about giving back, right? So,
Yeah.
the ability to go and open up over there is something that I think. So, I mean, definitely, I can only speak being in Indian is to. Uh, there are certain communities where opening up is quote unquote frowned upon, right? And yet,
Mm.
unless you open to a group that is non-judgmental, like you said, you will not get the feedback, you'll not get the advice that you sorely need. So how does
Yeah.
somebody kind of come out of that shell, if you will, and reach out to others to even get that guidance?
Ashwin, today's generation is very blessed. Everything is online. I always tell youngsters that, I mean, it's not like when you and me graduated, right? It was very different.
Yeah.
People might have said, but I guess, this generation is very, very blessed. And when I speak to colleges and college students, I always tell them, don't hesitate. Go on LinkedIn, see people's profile, and reach out to them and tell them that, I'm looking for help on
Mhm.
this particular component. You don't have to even pay. I mean, I'm just bringing that
Right,
factor
right,
if that is
right.
how. So people are really, if when you ask help, and that's very specific help, especially when you're a youngster, believe me, people are ready to help. People
What
are
ab-
ready
what
to
what
help.
about what about middle-aged people who haven't who are still on social media, but
Yeah.
they what do they call it? They're not digital natives;
Hmm.
they're digital immigrants, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how I mean, any advice for them to get over that mental blockage?
So getting over that mental block is again, I think it starts from inside, and face your insecurities.
Mhm.
Face your insecurities. All of us have those insecurities, and I have too many. So it's not it's a journey. It's not a destination that finally we get nirvana and all that. I don't believe in that. So so it's like face your insecurities. Be little more self aware, and if you can, of course, there are boxing happens, and I'm not pressurizing everyone. Everyone has a different perspective. So
Mhm.
if you can, do open up to people, do talk to people, and if you feel, and listen to everyone, and do whatever you want to do,
Yeah,
because people will give opinions also which may not be valid for you.
right.
you know Many times people told me, go back to corporate. I mean, entrepreneurship is not that great. People have told me multiple times. So my one of my own ex bosses even called me, I think 2 3 years into entrepreneurship, and he said, what are you doing? I told him this, and I told him that it's not going great, and I mean, I'm liking what I'm doing, but still from the money perspective it's not that great. He said, what are you doing? Come back, come back. Why do you want to do this? And for that one particular day, I was like,
Really down.
yeah, I should go back.
Mhm.
That feeling, because
Yeah,
the security was lucrative. I should
right.
go back, but I think something held me there. So listen to your deeper voice. It
Mhm.
may look cliche or philosophical, but I guess stepping back, giving those pauses, and listen to your inner voice. Keep listening to that. Stay connected to that voice, and there's no indication of that connection, that connection has happened or not. I guess it's being open, and if nobody else is there to talk to, listen to yourself, talk to yourself, and stay stay in that particular thing, that life is not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And this is coming from a perfectionist. So I mean, I have kind of taken that journey on, that
Yeah.
life is not. I wanted everything in life to be perfect. Perfect mother, me being perfect wife, perfect sister, perfect daughter, perfect entrepreneur. So I had my. That's why I said, I burnt myself
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
way. But life is not going to be perfect. So there's no answer which works for me may not work for you. So inner reflection and digging deeper is something which works.
Amazing. As you were saying, there's no indication of whether you're connected to inner voice. I was thinking, hey, if you had these 3 bars, 4 bars that you have on your phone about 5G connection, oh, I'm
Exactly.
connected. Hey, you're good.
Connected.
Connection is bad. It's like move here, move there. Right?
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I know. Maybe that's a startup idea. It's like, hey, AI-driven connection to
Yeah.
your inner self.
It's yeah, it's being playful and
Yeah.
having fun in that also. Yeah.
Very true. So again, thanks again for the waking up early and joining me on the Teflon Tales. Thanks, Manbir,
Thank you,
and good luck.
Ashwin. Thank
Yeah,
you, Ashwin. It was so lovely to be here with you. Thank
uh,
you.
thank you very much.